Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Pulse, the Heartbeat of America podcast. My numbnut camera decided to go out and not choose the microphone that I'm supposed to be on, so thankfully we have sound here. We have to go through our headlines on the techboy.org. Let's see what we have here on the screen. Hope you guys can see this on the screen. We're going to be using the restream, and then we're going to be looking over some Reddit comments, and my goodness. Man, we have some very, very funny stuff to share with you guys today, and then we're going to be reacting to MKBHD and Mr. Who's the Boss's video. Well, hopefully you guys can see this on the screen. This is from techboy.org, the greatest technology website on planet Earth, still a tech company. Anyway, Samsung's Ultra is not Ultra enough. So this is just going off of what we talked about on last episode. And the problem with Samsung's Ultra is twofold, right? Samsung's Ultra doesn't really have much competition here in the United States and even across the world for what we're looking for, right? I need a phone that has at least 512 gigabytes of storage because I have so many videos on here. Some people do stupid stuff. In any case, I have so many videos on here, and I do my editing on here. I use this as a computer, and I've been using this phone for almost 2 years. So the phone launched in February of 2024, and I got it in May of 2024. But I didn't start using it until June because I was on a plane in Chicago, so I didn't have the phone until it came because T-Mobile, they God forbid that they expect the shipping. But in any case, this is Samsung's Ultra phone. And what phones are we going to use to compete with it? Like, there's not many phones that have a bigger battery than this that launch in the United States. The only phones I can remember is, of course, Google's Pixel phone, which unfortunately is like 100 milliamp hours large, and I don't really like their skin. Not a huge fan of it. I don't trust any of those Chinese companies. I don't trust Xiaomi. I don't trust probably Honor, especially with highly sensitive data. I get sensitive data, guys. Hey, I'm special. I'm special. Sometimes people leak stuff to me. I can't have me getting leaked. Right? We cannot have that happening. I can't have my accounts getting hacked or stolen by China. So I don't want that to happen, of course. And maybe Asus, who's also out of the phone business. I mean, let's look at the Asus Zenfone 11 Ultra. Only 2 years of updates. Hope you can see this on the screen. And what on earth? Graphic designers across the country are weeping as we are looking at this phone right now. What on God's green earth is this? But I'm not looking at the back of my phone. My brother is like, "Oh, I don't want this phone because the back of it looks weird." Who the heck looks at the back of the phone this much? Like, what matters is it's the screen. People say it's what's on the inside that counts, and what's on the inside is what counts. Here, the Qualcomm 8 Gen 3 and 6.7 inch. 8-inch screen. That's what matters. But sometimes the outside does count, which the screen. I don't know who cares about what the back of the phone looks like. I also need to have 512 gigabytes of storage. Now, I was thinking about this. Should I buy this? Should I not? I mean, it's only $519, and you can return it according to what it says down here on the free 2 to 4 day delivery, 30-day returns, buyer pays return shipping. Well, great. Sounds like a great review. We'll get good clicks. Until it says this is non-returnable. So make up your mind. Choose. But I mean, this is the phone right here. I mean, it looks like a phone. I remember we were talking about that chicken sandwich meme. We were like, oh, all the chicken sandwiches look the same. I mean, what did you expect a chicken sandwich to look like? Not. In any case, this is the phone. These are the specs here. Dual SIM, which is pretty cool. If I get another phone number, you got 12 gigabytes of RAM, 8 Gen 3, fine enough with me, and 256 gigabytes storage, which, I can barely use 512. We're going to need a terabyte at this point. In any case, let's go back to the techboy.org, and hopefully you guys can see this on the screen. The CEO, Tim Cook of Apple, has stepped down. He's going to stay on at the company as vice president or something like that. In any case, his job is being replaced by John Tonis soon. Now, here's what I think about this. First of all, it's big news about Apple when you're running a story about this. This is not an Apple website. This is an Android Windows website. So it's a pretty big story. Stepping down as Apple CEO, he's a 65-year-old man. And, he did a pretty good job as run as Apple, 15 years. Got lots of iPhones out. But what exactly is John Tonis going to do? Like, Tim Cook, love him or hate him, he did his job well in terms of being a CEO and getting out the products, but he kind of missed the entire AI ball. Right? Does anyone talk about Siri? Does anyone talk about Apple GPT? Does anyone talk about Apple Intelligence? No. And do any of those products sound real? No. Apple Intelligence, no one uses that. Siri is atrocious, and Apple GPT does not exist. Even though people are saying that the Max Minis, because of the amount of RAM that they have on there, is so much better for artificial intelligence on device, but no one cares about on device artificial intelligence because that's not what's going to make people money. What makes you money is when you sell the cloud compute on there as well. Global One says hi. He says say it back. He says dubs. He says hello. He says tech. All right, great. Hey tech, great. Just make sure that you put stuff in the chat if you want me to react to it because we don't have that much to talk about today. So we have lots to talk about. Stay tuned, but we don't have that many topics to talk about. I just talk a lot, hence being a podcaster. In any case, let's go back to the Apple report from the Tech World Org. You guys can check this out. And some people have asked him to do some dumb stuff like bring back the iPod. No, it's not even the iPod Touch, which it doesn't even make sense as a product in 2026. The anti-smartphone people all have smartphones. All these people are whining about smartphones and how they're corrupted, blah, 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 blah. They're not going to give up their smartphones, not because they're addicted to them, but because they know that they are useful tools for humanity. No, these people, they don't want the iPod Touch back, which would be a stupid idea. No, they want something even dumber. They want the iPod Classic back with the click scroll wheel. Like that's going to sell. No one wants an iPod music player like that. In the year of our Lord, 2026, no one's going to buy that when you can just have a phone. And it is Apple's legal duty, its responsibility to its shareholders to make money and make the best decisions for its companies. Okay, so I don't care about your little tangent about, oh yeah, guys, we're gonna be so back, guys. The 2000s are so back. We're gonna have cell phones, most smart, and then we're gonna have an MP3 player, and then we're gonna have laptops. Like you do realize why the smartphone exists, right? You realize that, right? The smartphone exists to combine everything into one phone under God. That's how this works, guys. Hey, I don't understand why people are like, yeah, we want all the aspects of a smartphone. We want all the apps, but in physical products, because my smartphone's bad. Because phone bad. Phone bad. Phone makes me scared, and that's not good. Like Wilford Warren says, we love tech. Well, you know how bad it is for me to sit here and try to defend that. But are you kidding me? Oh yeah, guys, we want digital camera. I know some people here have digital cameras. I've looked at your camera quality; it's trash. Okay, it is trash. I've seen your digital camera quality here. Garbage. We want cameras. We want MP3 players. We want to be able to access the internet from a laptop. Like, but one, that costs more. That's going to cost you more money. And two, you just describe a smartphone at that point. But I mean, what is Turnus going to do here? Because smartphones have kind of peaked. What is going to be different between the iPhone 17 and the 18? We all want to know. We all waiting for the people that I interview. People that like Snapchat and Instagram. What is the average teen going to use on the iPhone 18 that isn't there on the iPhone 17? I video called someone from an iPhone 17 Pro Max before. Camera quality look good. Now, is Apple's UI liquid trash good? No. Okay, I tried the video calling that thing and flip the camera. What were we doing? Why is it like that? Someone asked me to take a photo of him with Flash on iPhone. You have to go into a whole separate menu to get to Flash. Again, what are we doing at this point? But as opposed to that, when I was on that iPhone 17, was I thinking, wow, if the iPhone 16 couldn't do this? No. One says we like Android. Absolutely, we like Android. And back to the Asus 11 Ultra. One of the problems with that is that Asus is out of business to make phones. They only get 2 years of software updates and 4 years of security updates. I don't want to get hacked. We got proprietary confidential information. High tech. That's why I have a nice long password on here. I have audio of people doing stupid stuff. In any case, we need those updates. And then we're probably going to have to start charging subscriptions for them at this point because, I really struggle to see what feature they're going to need. I mean, is Snapchat going to get faster on the iPhone 18? Really? Yeah, I don't think so. Yes, let's go back to the next article. I promised you guys. Promise is made. Promise is kept. They call me the promise keeper. I keep my promises to you guys. I promised to investigate the TikTok girls, and I did. I promised to interview tons of people. I promised to get down to the bottom of Snapchat, and I did. I promised even to find someone who got their election stolen by somebody and they'll investigate high school elections, and I did. So promise is made, promise is kept. I always keep my promise. Just like last week, I promised you guys that I would install a Windows-like phone launcher, Windows Phone, not like Windows 11. We can do that. That might be pretty fun because we're kind of running out of article ideas here because Apple has the same problem. What exactly I want to tell people? But I promise you guys that I'd install Windows Launcher on my phone and keep it on there for a week. This is what we have here. This is the Windows Phone Square Home application. Square Home is free with no ads for 14 days. There's no ads in it, but there's some premium stuff in there. I'm not sure what exactly the premium stuff is, but I am only using this for a week, so it doesn't really matter to me. It might matter to you guys. Just adding a disclaimer to you. Now, that out of the way, Group of One says Apple's bad, and that's one of the reasons you can't really do stuff like this on an iPhone. If I had an iPhone, I couldn't turn it into a Windows Phone if I wanted to do that. On my phone, I can't. I mean, I probably could if I tried hard enough. Install Windows Mobile on my phone. Do you guys want me to do that? That's another reason I should probably get a second phone, maybe a cheap one that has good processing power, kind of like that Asus. Only $500. It's a pretty good price. I don't know if the bootloader is open or not. In any case, this is turning my Android phone into it. This is what it looks like. So right up front, it doesn't really give that Windows Phone aura. That Windows Phone aura is not present. It feels like I'm looking at a jitterbug phone. I mean, because everything is so big, and you can see from the icons that you have an island over here. Apple has the dynamic island. This is the dynamic dang continent over here of an icon. Make it smaller, but that makes this a lot bigger. And it just feels very, old. Also, it's kind of slow. 2014 Golf, they want their launcher back. You can click messages here, and you'll see the image of George Washington crossing the Delaware. And I love America as much as the next person. It's a great country. But, when I'm trying to open up messages here, I'm trying to take a picture. I don't want to see George Washington crossing the Delaware. America 250 or no America 250. And, it's kind of laggy, it's kind of slow, and it just kind of feels off. It doesn't have that aura, that vibe that it has. Well, yes, you can add widgets. You can see widgets here on the screen. You can see my calendar, clock, and Bible, and weather applications here. But it just feels like the original Windows Phone was a lot more widget-driven than it was icon-driven. And I don't know, maybe it's the launch, maybe it's just the way the Android is built. I do like how it's kind of like this. Now, it does feel like one of those launches that's supposed to keep you from scrolling because you can't see all your applications or something like that. But, it doesn't. But I'm complicit in that because, what else? I like that. It's great. In any case, that is your Windows 11, Windows Phone launcher. I'll come back next week with more updates after the week is complete. Now let's get over to Reddit. Reddit is actually on the side of right on this one. Let's share this tab on the screen, guys. Hope you guys can read this on the screen. Let's read this. This is very important, very important. You made the wrong supposition to distract from the original point. His daughter is an abomination, according to the Westminster Standards. And his response is typical of effeminate, low-T, in the park, white knighting / simping, instead of standing for biblical truth and his natural order. Guess and what reply this is. To me, this is a reply to me. I'm defending some daughter who went to the military. She's a pastor's daughter. I asked him, how on earth is this bad? Or how is this NORPAT? How is this low-T or whatever? And he came out with this. My original... What is going on here? This is, again, why I'm evangelical and not whatever that is. This is why, again, I'm not hyper, I'm not hyper Christian because that's weird. That's weird. We're gonna break this down. Yes, lots of people still use Reddit. And 270 people, we won the election, guys. And 84 people commented, 270 upvotes. We won every swing state in the upvote count. It said this. I got 5, I can't read here. Tends to say unfiltered. 59,000 views on this clip. Now let's break this down. Let's break this down line by line. We're gonna go verse by verse, probably like they do at his church. You made the wrong supposition to distract from the original point. He's trying to make himself sound very important here. That's a great argument. You guys be nice to him. He's a Christian. And he's trying to make a good argument here. He made the wrong supposition to distract from the original point. Right, guys, he's using big words. His daughter is an abomination. Okay, imagine getting up, getting a cup of coffee, and about to logging on X and calling someone else's daughter an abomination. An abomination. Imagine calling someone an abomination in the Big 2-6. Like low genuinely, what are we doing at this point? An abomination is diabolical. Okay. And then it says, according to the Westminster Standards. Well, as I always tell the people I interview, after I asked them, what's your snap score and top 5 favorite things to lick, I always ask them this: are you applying yourself to the Westminster Confession of Faith? That's what I always ask them. You can go run the tape. I've never asked anyone if they applied themselves to the Westminster Standards. It's not a Bible verse. You're just making stuff up. Oh no, some old man in the 1600s wrote something down on paper. Big whoop! Why do I care? What are we doing at this point? Oh, you're not applying yourself to the Magna Carta state. Who cares? Who cares? Imagine running around and this guy like to talk about when that guy from the book who's talking about modesty or something from 2012, and he talked about modesty when he was in the mall with his kids. Well, imagine that guy running around talking about modesty, like, oh, guys, look, see that person's modest, and you sit down and have a focus on the family conversation with them. Well, imagine this guy walking around the mall and being like, look at that girl over there. She's not applying herself to the Westminster Standards. Anyway, back to the next line. And his response typical of effement low T in the park. What on earth is in the park? What is this? SSALTW? Ooh, in the park. GCAM, JVN. National security, that's what you sound like. You sound like an SSALTW book. Except, at least for the book, you have hours and hours of podcasts and an entire website to help explain those acronyms. No one knows what NAPARC is. White knighting and simping instead of standing for biblical truth. That's right, she should be backing down in the kitchen, making sourdough or something. Because Westminster, NAPARC said so. Instead of, defending our great nation. Because NAPARC. Because in the park, Let's see what Reddit had to say about this. No, Reddit is less Christian than me, obviously. And this is again, I am a Christian. I've been Christian almost my entire life, which is why I knew half of what he was talking about. I know that he's talking about the Westminster Confession of Faith. But when you're talking to people like this, and I met not the girl version of him, because she's far nicer and doesn't speak like this. I bet if I asked her what and the park was, she'd be like, what are you talking about? If I asked what the Westminster Standards was, I'd be like, what are you talking about? She'd be like, what are you talking about? And I'm pretty sure, according to him, she doesn't live up to the Westminster Standards, so that's neither here nor there. But I was asking her about strategy. I was asking her about, what would you do if one of your allies wasn't communicating with you? And she's like, oh, well, I forgive them. And that's nice. But it's not strategic. I think it's fine. Some people just aren't strategic. That's okay. She's gonna be on here. We'll play the clip. In any case, I'd much rather strategy playing with her than him because every time I come up with some strategy, he'll always be like, wait, is that a line within the park? See, that's why I'm not. Whatever this is, whatever version of Christianity this is, that's why I'm not Jewish, and that's why I'm not Catholic. I don't have to run through 600 different rules to see if I can use some strategy. Nah, look, is it by the 10 Commandments? Yes. Okay, great. Then we'll run past that. Okay, we'll just run past that. Like I don't need this. That's why I'm evangelical. One, it's a lot more fun. Two, I don't have to run everything right in the park. You can get away with a lot more stuff as evangelical. Anyway, let's see what the Reddit comments are saying. I sure do wish we could go back to speaking English instead of insults with English sprinkled around it. Amen. Did you mean for all those words to come out together if they fall out randomly? The Tower of Babel. Hi, normal person here. What on earth does this? What the heck does this mean? Who is this? His. This person attempts to explain what he was talking about. Low T is low testosterone, basically saying not a real man. White knighting, simping is anyone that sees women as people. No clue what NAPARC is, and yeah, he was good to Google it. According to Google, NAPARC is the North American Presbyterian and Reformed Count. Oh, well, see, I always care deeply, very deeply about the North American Reformed Presbyterian Council. I've cared very, very who cares? Who cares what they have to say about anything? I talked to Eli McGowan about this. Great person. Terrible, terrible election strategist. I mean, he might be the worst election strategist I've ever seen in my lifetime. His voting history was, what was it? 2012, Ron Paul. 2016, some guy, some irrelevant guy, I forgot who it was. 2020, Edward Snowden. 2024, the Am Solidarity Party. So, he's 0 for 4 here. No candidate that he's ever voted for has won, or even come within, I don't know, like 50% of winning. Or heck, even voted for himself at that point. But a great person. He's talking about Presbyterians and how they have all these councils and the like, and they have these meetings. Like you have church meetings, and then you have meetings amongst the denominations inside the church, like across the country. And you have like all these magazines. It's so complicated. It's so they run their church like it's a student council or like Congress, and it's like all, I don't know, 120 people there. It's like high level politics, which I guess that's probably how they keep them interested in it. Honestly, like if you always have some interesting meeting, some sort of interesting thing that's happening in your life, you have every church is voting, and you have household voting, or everyone votes for themselves, and it's like it builds its own community. Probably because like, if you are abiding to the Westminster NARPAC Council of people from 1600 or something, you got nothing else to do, so you might as well set up your own government. It kind of brings you some sort of intrigue, I guess. But your intrigue is going to get you roasted and drugged on Reddit, appropriately speaking. Global Round says TechWar is one of the great strategists. Yes, I am one of the great strategists of our time. I'm a great strategist because I don't allow nonsense rules to hold me back. If it's a stupid rule, I don't allow it to hold me back. And also, I'll look at the polling data for non-essential issues. Someone asked me this in an interview once, like, do your polls work? I was like, yeah, I was looking at these polls, I was looking at the Instagram data, and then I went outside and I actually polled people, and guys, guess what? There's a 1-to-1 match. SSA was once again proven right when this is on the altered state issue. That's why I'm a great strategist. I know how to connect to people. I have a very broad coalition of people, right, from less Christian than me to more Christian than me, and they all are united under one banner, and that's the banner of me. That's why I'm a great strategist, because, well, one, I can talk to most Christians, even people more Christian. I mean, I don't know, like, I'm not this. You're speaking a new language over here. If I can talk, I can play that game, and I can also play the normal game. Right? I don't know what this is. This is far outside the Venn diagram. Okay, this is why, of course, the only power that they have is within their own church. In any case, let's keep reading into the comments here. Doesn't speak to your dad anymore. Westminster doesn't sound like I was saying these writers even less Christian than me. They thought that Westminster was a dog show, which would be even funnier if he was judging her by how the dog show worked. I've never seen the dog show. It's a abundance of documents that outline the shape of English Presbyterianism from the 1640s. So, this person isn't in England, and it's not the 1640s. So there is that. But was just. I mean, imagine calling someone else's daughter an abomination on X and not getting roasted. Well, now let's get to our video, Mr. Who's the Boss, MKBHD. Those are like two of my favorite tech YouTube. Let me turn up the volume. There we go. Oops. Man, see, my laptop for some reason is so laggy. I don't know why. Let's see. Quality 240p. All right, now let's show this on the screen. You guys can see this on the screen, huh? And if you guys want me to talk about anything else, just like Zan Filter did yesterday, now Zan Filter was showing some, I had no idea, what kind of wheels? What were you looking at, Zan? Okay, so let's go to the MKBHD, Mr. Who's the Boss video. Speed, let's go, let's go to bench build speed, let's go.
Lines everywhere you look, but as soon as you peel back the clever wording, you take away the hidden asterisks and you remove the sneaky manipulation of data, you realize that never in history has such little change been sold to us as if it's so much. So
I mean, that's again back to the smartphone problem. I mean, we're at a point in history when you can go back 10 years and the phone still looks the same because we mastered the phone at that point. Now, would it work? No, I tried using my dad's S5 Sport. Bro, the computers that run the nuke code should have been faster at that point. Like, if I had to call 911 on that phone, I'd be dead before I hit the second one.
I've teamed up with Marquez from MKBHD to show you how they get you.
Man, it's not good that this video is that laggy. Goodness gracious, bro. We can't have lag and this.
I feel like we have to start with the magic new catch-all term of the tech industry.
AI.
Up to. What we need to see, and what we used to see a lot more of, is...
I mean, up to makes sense because, not in every circumstance, and, you don't want to get sued, 25% faster. Well, someone's going to run some sort of weird benchmark and say, oh, it's only 24.9% faster, and you'll get sued.
This new product is X% better than the last one. This very simple idea basically doesn't exist anymore. Practically every...
We're going to have to stop and play, but we have to put it at 0.95.
Every single tech company quotes every single change as up to.
Up to 2 times faster. Gets up to 8 more hours.
It's up. Very funny when like Matt Walsh or other people like this, they'll be like, they have the source or the credit in the caption below, but they're like roasting them or just using them as a source, but they don't like the source, like CBS News or whatever. It's very funny when people do stuff like that.
Up to 2 times faster.
You'll notice they don't even write it as up to a lot of the time. They'll just like mutter it quickly under their breath.
Well, yeah. It's called marketing.
Like it's some sort of pedant.
Have any of you ever watched the car commercials and you see that little asterisk and it says something like, well, the car's just doing some normal stuff too. Like they're just driving on the road and it says, on a closed course track, do not attempt. Like, what do these companies expect you to do with their cars? Sit in them and look at them in a garage? Like, well, what are you supposed to attempt? You have these cars that are being driven off-road, like Jeeps that are supposed to be driven off-road, and you're like, don't attempt on a closed course. Well, what am I supposed to do with this Jeep? Why would I buy this thing?
Footnote that you don't need to pay attention to. But if you think about it, any stat that starts with an up to doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, that is fair. I mean, I could be up to 700% faster than Rufter. As long as I'm just a tiny bit faster than them. That is a true stat.
I could say this video is going to reach up to 1 billion people. And if it only ends up reaching my parents and then like one cousin in India, I was still right. And you could argue, well, workloads are more complex now. It's harder to estimate exactly how much better.
Yeah, that's true. And India does have a billion people, so you could do that.
Something is, but the real reason this is being used is very clear. It's to be able to stick a massive number on your webpage and not be sued for it. So if you see up to followed by a percentage improvement, honestly, just disregard it and go search up specifically how much better that product is in exactly what you're planning on doing with it. But I'll leave the next one up to you, Marquez.
Okay, so in announcement keynotes and a lot of advertising specifically.
Oh, well, speaking of advertising, who gets the ad revenue for this video? Because it is a collab, so there's 2 here. So there's 1,273,000 views here. Did it get it 50-50? Is it split? No, for MrWhoseTheBoss and MKBHD, that's fair. He has 20.9 million subscribers, and one has 21 million subscribers, so it's fair. I mean, if I had to collab with Marcus Brownlee, obviously, he should obviously get the most amount of money. It is also pretty weird when you think about like following count. Like you think about 21.9, sorry, 20.9 versus 21 million. That is still 100,000 people. And don't 100,000 people is a lot of people. Like the distance between him and MKBHD is the same distance between me and 100,000 followers. Yeah, 100,000 people. Like that is a lot of people.
A lot of companies like to do this thing where they combine a bunch of different specs from different versions of the same product into one page, creating what I like to call the imaginary spec. So like one of the most common versions you'll see is a company will put like the maximum up to performance number alongside the minimum starting at price. And they'll put them next to each other.
Yeah, we have seen stuff like this before. You know, I'm trying to think, does Samsung do this? Because they'll be like, I mean, I guess in the commercials you'll see like, oh, well, they don't really put prices in commercials. But on the website, it'd be like $799 for the S26, for the S26, 256/250, 512 gigabytes of storage. But I mean, I don't think that's that bad because everyone knows that you have to expand for the storage. It's bad for this card because they're not showing the minimum range that comes with the starting MSRP. But I think if you have a slash on there, like if it says 8/12 gigabytes of RAM or 256/512 gigabytes of storage, then I think that any customer that's ever bought something before would know that obviously you have to pay for the upgrade. I mean, it'd be kind of ridiculous to sell a smaller phone, a smaller storage phone capacity, smaller capacity phone at the same price as the larger capacity phone unless it's for sale. At that point, why would you even make the smaller capacity phone? Just sell the regular one. Like
in a product where you can't actually get the maximum performance for the minimum price. Here's Rivian, for example, on the R1T website. You'll see, wow, 420 miles of range and a 0 to 60 in under 2.5 seconds, starting at under $74,000.
Whoa. Side tangent here, but let's talk about this. $72,000 for that? First of all, that thing looks like a Hot Wheel. That looks like a toy. And it's an electric car here, 420 mile range. $73,000 for that? $73,000. You can buy like 4 cars for that price. $73,000 for an electric pickup truck? Is that normal? Like, what are the seats made out of? You know, the idea of luxury cars is kind of weird to me because there's like a certain luxury that you can attain, and then once you get further and further up, because most cars devalue themselves, it's just ridiculous. And this isn't even, I'm pretty sure this isn't even luxury. Because, like, you know, if you have a car, you want some of the nice features in it, some pretty high. If I were to buy a car, obviously one of the features I wanted it would be it to self-drive, but it to be gas. Like, it has some sort of driver assistance feature in there. If I were to buy a car, I wanted to have some sort of driver assistance feature. Leather seats, cloth seats, I don't really care about that. But, you know, if it has it, leather seats are nice. I've been in those before. Heated seats, those would be nice. Not really a thing that you need. You can always buy the aftermarket version of those off of Amazon. Just make sure it doesn't like explode or whatever. Just like in the Arlo and AJ series of books when they have the heated toilet seats that start catching fire. Very annoying. It's called My Weird School, by the way. You know, stuff like that. Backup cameras, which are mandatory so if I'm looking for something after 2018. Cameras like that. Driver assistance features. Gas mileage. How much it costs to maintain. It's not some weird brand that you gotta fly parts in from Berlin. You know, just the Berlin airlift, but for your car. That's what I would look for in a car. Once you get to like super, like $200,000, $100,000 cars, I mean, those are houses, but at least down payments on houses at that point. Like, well, what are you doing? Like, what is the benefit of, say, $100,000 car compared to a $50,000 car? Like, can you show me $50,000 worth of improvement? I mean, you can probably see easy performance jumps between a $20,000 car and a $50,000 car. Better seats, better inside the car infotainment system, probably a lot more reliable. Yeah, I don't think you can get a car for brand new for $20,000. I mean, not a good one at least. You get some tiny little smart cars. It's actually pretty expensive. This isn't a car channel, but I mean, like $72,000 for that? Really? I mean, there's not that many electric pickup trucks. I mean, there's that. There's the Cybertruck. Maybe there's some hybrids out there, but still, $72,000 starting at. I mean, that truck most likely goes up to $100,000. Which, I mean, if I was forced to pay $100,000 for a car, like just on one car instead of like, I don't know, like a fleet of vehicles, I could have babies with that car. Like you could have multiple cars for $100,000. I mean, I go with something, a big SUV, luxury, Range Rover, BMW. What's higher than that? What was higher than that? Like, goodness, you wouldn't catch me in a dang Rivian. Like, fuck.
But not exactly, because the one with 420 miles of range is the dual motor, which has a 3.4 second 0 to 60. Still quick, but the 2.5 second version costs $30,000.
150? Wow. Wow, I had more faith in Rivian than I thought. I thought, okay, probably max out 115. Bro, you can buy 2 of those, or you can buy a house. Like, you have to be a millionaire to have a wow. And the thing about cars is that once you get into like super luxury stuff, it's just basically to show off. And no one walks in and sees a Rivian and thinks, wow, what a rich guy. Well, that is the CEO of a company right there. No one says that. They see a Rivian and think, oh, wow, look at that tree hugger over there. They think he's probably going to be wearing some, flannel and green. They think he's probably going to donate to those people who stand in the middle of the road and throw oil on paintings or whatever. Like, that's what people think when they see a Rivian. Does this look luxury to you? $115,000? Think about it fly? Goodness gracious! Like this looks like a Honda pickup truck. This looks like a Honda pickup truck with cool lights. No one sees the CEO in a Honda pickup truck and thinks, "Wow, exudes power." Or nah.
More and has 40 miles less range. And for 73,000.
Wait a second, bro. I'm paying $115,000 for a car. That thing, electric car, better be able to circumnavigate the dang globe. I think better be able to circumnavigate the globe.
$1,000, you don't get either of those things. So
270 miles, at least you can win your electoral college.
Yeah, this here is an imaginary spec. Oh, and by the way, that's another one while we're at it. EV range claims. Now there are laws.
They do the same thing for gas cars as well. They always drive them under the most perfect conditions. It's a beautiful 65-degree day outside. Wind coming from the north. Obviously, you're going south, so it's in the car as well. On a nice, perfectly paved road that you had to build specifically because there's no such thing as a perfectly paved road in America. On a nice, perfectly paved road with one person in the car who's anorexic, hasn't eaten anything all day, and there's nothing in the car at all. In fact, you're not even listening to music or playing anything on the GPS. The AC is off. You can get 21 miles per gallon under these perfect conditions. EV range is even worse because miles per gallon basically stays the same throughout the lifetime of the car. Your range is going to get worse because it is a battery, and batteries degrade, batteries die. Your phone after 3 years is not going to have as much battery capacity as the phone when you had it. And also batteries can be different. My phone can legally have about 4,800 something milliamp hour batteries and still be sold as a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. Pretty sure they can do the same things for EVs. And obviously, you use that battery a lot more than you use your phone battery. Because, when you're driving it on the road. I use my electric scooter. It says it has a 10,000 milliamp hour battery, which when I think about that, this, without the case, is 5,000 milliamp hour battery. This, with the case, is 12,000 something milliamp hour battery. No, it's 10,000. No, 15,000 milliamp hour battery. Yes, guys. So technically, I hold in my hand more power than what powers my scooter. Why? Like, the scooter has an entire floor. Like, this fits in my pocket. So technically, I could, if everything were turned off and this was a power bank, plug this into my scooter, and I'd still have 3,000 milliamp hour battery left. Or like a phone from 2017. The Note 8 had a 3008. 100 milliamp hour battery, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe like Note 5. Let's go with the Note 5. So I can have a Note 5 and a fully charged scooter in the palm of my hand. Well, okay, first of all, that is an indictment on everybody. First of all, 15,000 milliamp hour batteries just in this? Samsung, what are we doing? Make this. It doesn't even have to be this thick because you can use up the camera. A scooter company, 9bot. Again, what are we doing? This has more power than your scooter? Why? And for the EV range claims, obviously batteries degrade and die. So everyone who deals with these batteries is incompetent at this point.
Around how accurate your range claims actually have to be, just like with gas mileage. And some companies are a little more optimistic about that range claim than others, fine. But the fact is, we are still pretty early in this battery tech, and the tiniest, even seemingly insignificant things can make a pretty
Today would be a good day. Oh, come on. This is ridiculous. I'll go back. There you go.
battery tech, and the tiniest, even seemingly insignificant things can make a pretty significant difference to your range. And so even when you break it all the way down to specific Rivian models, the one that does the 2.5 second 0 to 60, you can see that 374 mile range claim right here. But when you actually click in, that's when you realize that's on a specific wheel with a specially designed sticky Michelin tire. And then, oh, look at that. You're actually getting 338 miles of range. You'll have to switch down to the standard sport wheel and tire to get the 374 miles of estimated.
Dang. And of course, it's going to add more to cost. And do they own wheels, or do they? You have to buy those from when you have to change your tires? No, yes, come on, today. Today would be a great day to look. Come on, man. Let's go. Let's see, let's go check in with the chat. Anything important happen though? Okay. Okay, we'll reload. I don't know why it does.
Not all press wire services are created equal. EIO press wire is modern, different, better, with transparent pricing and worldwide distribution.
Second 0 to 60, you can see that 374 mile range claim right here. But when you actually click in, that's when you realize that's on a.
Oh yeah, we saw this.
You're actually getting 300 to get the 374 miles of estimated range. So yes, even this here was an imaginary spec. And I promise you,
Use like imaginary numbers, you know. Except, you know, you actually use imaginary specs in real life.
Rivian is far from the only offender in the world of cars and in tech.
And if you thought that companies exaggerating their specs to seem better than others is a problem, then how about when companies just invent entirely new specs so that you can't even compare them to others? When companies start to build loyalty, they want to be able to charge more for the same stuff. But how do you get away with that in a world where a comparison is just one quick ChatGPT search away? Well, make it so confusing for customers to compare you that the easiest thing then becomes for them to just take your word for it that you're better. One of the most prolific examples of this right now is RAM. Any computer, any phone, any laptop, even your smartwatch needs RAM to be able to juggle tasks. And this is true no matter which company's product it is. But
Okay, I don't really know where he's going with this one. This seems interesting. I want to see where you're going with this.
Apple now refers to their RAM
of course, Apple. Apple refers to their artificial intelligence as Apple intelligence.
Almost exclusively as unified memory.
Oh yeah, I didn't like when they did that, when they talk about RAM as memory, because it's confusing. Because when I was growing up, I was like, what are we talking about here? I remember reading through some paper that came to my phone, to my mailbox from like the discount store or something. They're like, this phone has a Snapdragon chip. I'm like, what the heck is a Snapdragon? Why are they talking about flowers?
They can say this because their RAM is actually part of their chip as opposed to a separate component, which does make that RAM a little more efficient in some ways. But it glosses over a very important detail, that Windows laptops often have dedicated graphics cards that have their own additional pool of RAM, whereas
I don't think mine has that, but yeah,
unified memory means that both the CPU and the GPU share from one small pool, so you're pretty much always getting less RAM. And yeah, I mean, Apple executives have famously boasted about how their unified memory is so efficient that just 8 GB of it is equivalent to 16 gigs on Windows, but it's not really
not sure if that's true or not.
True. There just will be a hard cap on how much multitasking you're able to do, because 8 gigs is 8 gigs. But even so, can you see how this whole concept of unified memory still helps Apple? It makes something as simple as RAM feel like some sort of gray area, which means they can...
It also makes it seem like something that they have, like it's their special sauce that you may not get on any other computer.
Give you a lot less of it, and they can charge you more to upgrade it than any other company. I'd say, to be honest though, the worst example of the invented spec is the TV market. TV makers will try absolutely...
Oh yeah, because, a TV is a TV. Like I've talked about this before. Is it really some sort of world where a $300 TV is meaningfully different than a $7,000 TV? Oh, the software gets slow. Buy a stick. I don't know what to tell you at this point. TVs last a long time, bro. You have to work hard to kill a TV. The last TV that we replaced because it died was the last about 15 years, and it was like this thick. So, the TV is a TV. We've been doing these things for 100 years.
Everything to make you feel like you're getting the real deal, apart from actually giving it to you. Like when Hisense tells you that a TV has a motion rate of 120, it doesn't actually mean that the TV has a 120 hertz refresh rate like you'd think.
Yeah, intro loped.
And clearly many other people have been led into believing motion rate is another invented spec that just means the TV is running Hisense's motion smoothing software.
These TV ads are so cool, especially when they talk about, oh, your TV's brighter. You're seeing it on your old TV, or they're showing it on their TV, and I'm like, it just looks sped up.
Or let's say that you tell your less tech-savvy buddy to make sure you get a TV that has OLED tech. What are the chances that they accidentally end up buying a Hisense ULED, or a Samsung QLED, or a LG...
QLED is an actual thing, isn't it? I've never heard of ULED.
QNED. I'd say pretty high. Even though all of these are in fact invented specs designed, I think, to camouflage as OLED, even though they're actually much cheaper LCDs.
Now, okay, maybe you're not convinced, all right? Maybe you're watching this thinking, it's fine if they make up specs as long as they're technically true.
Well, yeah. In some of those cases.
But I'll do you one better. What if there's made up specs that are actually numerically, factually false? I actually made an entire separate video all about this, but 1-inch camera sensors are not 1 inch.
Of course.
In any dimension. And 1.5K displays are actually not 1500 pixels in any dimension either. How is that possible? Well, it's because the way we measure things has changed. Something like this camera, for example. This is a Sony ZV-1. A lot of cameras like it. This camera has a 1-inch sensor. It says so on their website. And that sounds amazing. A 1-inch sensor in this little camera? Have you ever looked inside a pro DSLR or mirrorless camera at the size of that sensor? That looks like about a 1-inch sensor. So this must also have a huge sensor like that. But it's not. It's way smaller. Why is that? Well, turns out this is a 1-inch sensor because in 2026, that's what we call a 1-inch type sensor.
This might actually be interesting here. Sounds like a scam. Let's see what's going on here.
See, before digital cameras didn't have sensors at all. They actually used vacuum tubes. And so the size of the tube was actually what they measured. So a 1-inch vacuum tube would create an image area inside it closer to about 16 millimeters diagonally. And that is actually about the size of the 1-inch type sensor in this camera. So it's 2026, but we're calling this a 1-inch sensor because that is the size of the theoretical vacuum tube that would be required to produce an image.
That's just convoluted. That's just lying at that point.
The size of this sensor. Why? Turns out 1-inch sensor is a marketing name more than it is an actual measurement. And I have the same beef with displays, because you've probably already heard a lot of smartphones recently have like 1.5K displays. You've heard this? You've seen a lot of
I don't know if I've gone hands-on with that before. I don't. Oh, Sony's the one brand that I could get.
These floating around, but none of them have 1500 pixel measurements. So what's going on here? See, this is where it gets weird. Okay, so intuitively, we all agree that 4K, for example, is referring to the horizontal resolution, right? So this video is 4K because it's 4,000 pixels across, roughly. It's 4096 by 2048. Sometimes it's 3840 by 2160, but it's roughly 4,000 pixels wide. And 8K would be 8,000 pixels wide. But at some point, for some reason, we started calling 2560 by 1440.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44, a complete AI creation platform.
.2K, which is close, but a little bit off. And then for some reason, 1080p, which is now referring to the vertical resolution, is 1K, which is weird because
1K just sounds cooler, I guess. Oh, I have a K display, guys.
1080p is actually 1920 by 1080, so it should be 2K, but now we're calling 1080p 1K. And so now smartphone companies are using 1.5K to refer to a measurement somewhere in between 1080p and 1440p. So it's not actually 1500 across or 1500 tall. It just means somewhere in between 1K and 2K.
Oh, this is actually, yeah, we're actually learning something very, very interesting. Any comments? No? Okay.
And that's super annoying to me, but it's how we talk now.
And do you guys see that? The music and the intro right there, that reminded me of when they do like on television shows, like kind of like Spy Toys, Spy Kids.
If there's even a hardware change at all with new products. What's becoming increasingly common these days is this focus on vaguely defined new software features. So if you're launching a new smartphone, let's say, you're holding a big event and a live stream to tell people what's new about it, then the thing that is useful to see is what specifically is new about that product. A good example of this is the privacy display on Samsung's Galaxy S26 Ultra. It's a software feature, but it's one that actually required them to physically change the way they built the display to work. So it's made for this phone. But unfortunately, the vast majority of new features that we actually see marketed here are not that. Like if we...
Yeah, that makes sense because, again, is the processing power in your phone, some vast achievement that you need that last year's phone just can't make it anymore? No, so the only thing that you have is cameras and stuff like the display that you can change.
Pull up the Galaxy S24 event. They spent this much time talking about the new Samsung AI features, and then literally just as long talking about Circle to Search. They talked about it like it's this revolutionary new feature that's only made possible thanks to Samsung's deep partnership with Google.
Our partnership continues to go strong as we create new ways to do more with Google on Galaxy devices.
But Circle to Search is also on Google phones. It's on Xiaomi phones. It's not really got anything to do with Samsung apart from just them being the first to show it. And they do this every year.
Well, I mean, that's it's one of the benefits that you get for partnering. Like they partnered with Google. That's what everyone said they wanted them to do. I like Samsung's apps better than Google apps in my opinion. But I mean, so it's one of the fruits of that partnership.
To buff out their presentations and try to make you associate those Google features with Samsung. And it's not like Google's mad about that. I mean, the #1 Android company, Samsung. just confusing which features are also coming to other brands. Where I think it gets really intentionally confusing at these launch events is which features that you're talking about are also coming to your own older phones. Don't get me wrong, it's a good thing that big companies support their older models. I mean, they kind of have to. They did promise you when you bought them. But the thing that's misleading is spending 60% of the next phone's launch event talking about how it's the coolest phone in the world and you should upgrade because it has all these next-gen features, but then never mentioning that those features are also coming to the phone that you're watching the event on.
We added a brand new
they come a few months later.
capability that goes beyond device control. Now Bixby can bring you up-to-date information directly in the conversation.
So you see how this new Bixby is being positioned as one of the perks of the Galaxy S26 series.
I'll have to test that out.
But actually, it can run on even a Galaxy S23. And this kind of stuff is genuinely most of these launch events now. And speaking of older products, what's with companies now who launch a new product, but then only compare it to another product that came out like 3+ years ago? Apple is the worst for this.
Everyone talks about how phones should be upgraded every 2 or 3 years, so I guess that makes sense. Laptops, I don't know how often people upgrade their laptops. I just upgrade mine when it dies.
Take the latest MacBook Pros. So we go to the performance section, and the headline number is, oh, would you look at that? Up to 8 times faster AI performance. So they got the up to in there. They've got the specific use case, all to make sure that they have this super
people, when they see AI performance on here, I bet that the average person who does not need this laptop, but they'll still buy it, the average person is going to think, wow, we can run my ChatGPT 8 times faster, guys. Which the only thing that matters there is how good your Wi-Fi card is.
Impressive, quotable 8 times number, but then also, it's 8 times faster than the M1 family.
What?
These are the M5 generation chips released in 2026, and they're comparing them to the M1s released across 2020 and 2021. 5 to 6 years apart. And what they would say is, well, many users will be upgrading from an M1. We're just being helpful. To which I would say, if I was using a worn down, slightly busted 6-year-old M1 laptop, my decision is not, do I upgrade? It's actually, do I upgrade to the M5?
It's ridiculous.
Or do I instead buy the last gen M4 and save a bunch of money? How
Get the M4.
much difference is there between those two choices? I don't know. Apple won't tell me. All this is a thinly veiled tactic to...
Only Apple can do that, because if you try that on a PC, the specs are they use basically some of the same components. So you can go onto any website and check, and you'll also get eviscerated. So half this stuff is just stuff that Apple can get away with, because of course they're the only company that does Mac OS. They're the only company that does MacBooks. So I mean, Apple has a very special privilege. Apple is the only company on planet Earth that can launch a phone for $600 that has one camera on it, and people will still buy it. If any Android company tried that, they would get drunk. I don't care if it's a $100 phone. That phone better have 2 dang cameras on it.
To help take what is in most instances 5 to 10% of real world improvement all the way into these astonishing sounding numbers like 8 times. But let's be honest, this is a joke. It's a bit like if you were a world-class runner, but then the way that you prove you're a world-class runner is by comparing your speed to when you were 8 years old.
Now, there's another funny way companies compare to their previous selves, specifically smartphone companies when talking about the glass and how tough the glass is. Surely you've heard this before. This new smartphone or this new glass is twice as shatter resistant as the previous year.
How do you prove that? Do they take the phones and just drop them and oh, this one shattered? Well, I mean, I guess the first time it shatters, it doesn't really matter. This phone shattered on the 50th drop, and this one shattered on the 100th drop.
Wow. And then the next year it'll come out and say this new glass is now twice as scratch resistant as last year. That is amazing. How are they making such massive improvements in the quality of the glass every time? But it's not as insane when you realize that scratch resistance and shatter resistance are inversely related. So the more of one you have, the less of the other you have. Think of it like this. If you want something to be super, super scratch resistant and super, super hard, that makes it more likely to be a little bit brittle and shatter. But if you want it to be less likely to shatter, you make it
phone turn from the S25 6 Ultra into an ROG phone with the colors.
a little bit softer, which makes it more likely to scratch. So instead of making some huge improvement every single year like the headlines might have you think, it's actually more 2 different graphs, one for scratch resistance and one for shatter resistance, and they kind of do this. You know, scratch resistance does this every single year, and shatter resistance does this every single year, but in the opposite phase, because they're not able to do huge improvements of both.
So if you want a more shatter resistant phone, you buy every other year? Interesting.
Both at the same time. There is some material science and they're both getting slightly better, but that's an easier way to understand that it's not as crazy as it sounds. It's no coincidence that, you know, the first generation of this dramatic new ceramic shield for the iPhone was 4 times better in drop resistance than any previous iPhone. And then when they finally got to ceramic shield generation 2, it was 3 times more scratch resistant specifically. Every single one scratches at level 6 with deeper grooves at a level 7 because it's still glass.
But hey,
Okay, talking about Jerry Rig everything. How does this guy still have a job? He has the dumbest takes I've ever seen on planet Earth, and he just breaks phones.
at least tech companies are generous enough to upgrade the storage on our phones and laptops every few years.
The new iPad Pro comes with double the storage, which is now 256 gigabytes.
Oh, thanks, Apple. Oh. So we got
Is that the price of the iPad normally? I'm not sure.
$200 more expensive.
Oh, well, oh yeah, it is $790. I don't know. I don't buy iPads. don't look at me over here.
So they position it to you like they're doing you some kind of massive favor, when in fact, all they've really done is stopped selling the cheaper, lower storage model, and so you have to pay more. But at least that one's kind of easy to see through. The one that I find much tougher is what I would call the efficiency improvement trap. And it's a specific problem with the way that performance improvements are sold to us. Every year, we hear a very similar story.
Performance-wise, we're seeing a 23% boost and 20% more efficiency too.
So even just ignoring for a second how they slipped in that little up to behind him, even though he didn't actually say it, this guy is very clearly implying that this chip lets you game with about 20% faster performance, while your battery lasts 20% longer.
So not only you're getting smoother gameplay, but you're also getting better battery life while doing it.
But the important thing to understand is you don't get both. If your efficiency goes up by 20%, but then you're using all of that extra efficiency to get this 20% extra performance, then what you're actually getting is the same battery life. So when you then bundle that back in with the fact that the entire thing is only up to 23% faster and up to 20% more efficient, and what we're really
Basically equilibrium.
often talking about in these kinds of situations is an average expected improvement of like 5% to your.
Oh yeah, I mean, again, it's from year to year, you can't have that many improvements, and that's why, of course, testing is important.
Performance and your end battery life.
Surgical grade stainless steel, aircraft grade aluminum, military toughness. Tech companies.
Oh yeah, they like to talk about stuff like that, and it's just like military grade is just like the cheapest stuff that works. Like if you're gonna send someone out there to get shot, you better. I mean, it better work, but I mean, it better not, die. Like it better work, but it also better be cheap.
Feel like they're always super excited to sell you something that has maybe the most premium materials on planet Earth, forged in an oven at 1,000,000 degrees that only the most exacting customer could possibly accept. But you know what's funny about that? There's actually nothing super special about any of those things. In fact, they're actually quite common. Like most airplanes, it's true, they use a whole bunch of 6000 and 7000 series aluminum because those alloys are super strong and light and cheap enough for mass production and good quality. But that does also mean that when your phone uses aerospace grade aluminum, it's technically true, but That's also true about a Razor scooter. And a whole lot of the stainless steel you'll come across in life is just 316L steel, which is an alloy that is one of many that is pure enough and high quality enough to be used in surgical tools.
Okay.
And in the iPhone 14 Pro's rails. And in most kitchen sinks that you come across.
So you say kitchen sink grade stainless steel.
Which technically means the kitchen sink is also surgical grade stainless steel. It's not lying technically, but now you know.
The truth is, the specs of tech products are chosen around how those products are going to be marketed. And that's kind of a given, it's just business. But the issue is that very often in today's world, the specs that make a product the most marketable are not the specs that are most useful to a user.
Storage, RAM, camera. I don't know if I trust that one to see what he says about it.
Take thickness. The spec that matters here, really, is the maximum thickness. You want to know how thick the new phone or laptop is at its thickest point, because that's going to determine what bags or pockets you can fit it in.
Okay, for a phone, if I can fit this in my pocket, it's fine, bro. Like, no one's that desperate. Goodness gracious.
Side of. But the spec that companies talk about is thickness at a product's thinnest point. And as soon as that genie's out the bottle, you can call it whatever you want to. Like Apple calls the iPhone Air the thinnest iPhone ever. And while that's true for this section of the body here, it's not true for the whole phone. I've got an iPhone 7 here, which is thicker than the iPhone 6, by the way, but still, this is thinner than the iPhone Air when you factor in the cameras. And it's not like you can take them off. It's just such dumb logic. Like, if we carry on this train of thought, then what's to stop Apple at the next iPhone launch event taking all the rest of the components?
You just use the power button and be like, it's the thinnest phone at the power button.
In the body and shoving them into one massive block at the end that you have to hold like a camera grip, but then calling the phone 5 times thinner than the last iPhone because all that's left in this part is the display. And then you've got Honor, who marketed their Magic V5 as world's slimmest foldable. But then people got it in their hands, put it side by side with Samsung's foldable, and found that that was actually slimmer. Want to know why? Because Honor, in their measurements, excluded not just the camera bump, but also the outer and the inner screen.
Oh, you can't take off the screen protectors.
Screen protector. You know, the one that you're not actually even allowed to take off yourself. That's not the only pointless spec though, like screen brightness.
Wait, how is that pointless? That's very pointed, in my opinion.
It's become an arms race to just be the one quoting the highest number of nits possible. But the more that companies focus on just reaching a really high peak nit number, the less that number actually tells you about how bright the screen is.
There's already like Chinese companies that have like, you know, those phones that have like 20,000 mAh batteries and, you know, 24 gigabytes of RAM if you use, you know, 18 of that gigabytes of storage that you have. You know, they try to combine all these things to come together. It's like big number on some $300 phone, and you're using like, yeah, this isn't the best.
Today, they could literally be describing how bright 1 pixel on the screen could go while playing HDR content in direct sunlight for like 3 seconds. So this, for example, is an Honor Magic 8 Pro. The company makes a pretty big deal about how this has a 6,000 nit peak brightness. That
Honor needs to be a lot more honorable. But, you know, my phone, hot Texas, Arizona sun, sometimes even on the dim sun, sometimes like it can be cloudy outside and you can still barely see it. So nits is one of the things that I would look for in a good phone.
That's the figure that's marketed. But if we pull up a plain white image on this phone and put it next to a Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, which only advertises a 2600 nit peak brightness, you can't actually tell the difference.
I can. I mean, it looks white. Yellow, I don't know. It's in 240p, bro. I can't.
Tall in this day-to-day scenario. These are both on Macs, by the way. So when you're looking at brightness numbers, just get rid of peak brightness. Look at typical brightness. And when it comes to phone cameras, what mostly matters is sensor size. The bigger the sensor, the more light and the more real detail that your shots have. What most companies spend far more time talking about is resolution, which
megapixels.
Beyond a certain point doesn't matter at all on a phone. Like the last 4 generations of Samsung phones have had a 200 megapixel resolution. They're still shooting their actual photos in 12. And don't even get me started on maximum zoom magnification.
Yeah, the zoom magnification actually does matter, in my opinion. And when you have the hardware to back it up, Samsung does. You know, anyone can go onto some phone from 5 years ago, download some, I think it's Gcam app, and be like, "Hey guys, look, I can zoom in 30 times." So if you have the hardware to back it up, that does matter, and it does. It's pretty cool. You know, I've heard it.
Look at this page for the Nothing Phone 4a Pro. The headline feature, the number one thing being used to sell this phone is world's first 140 times ultra zoom. Oh my goodness.
What on earth? What do we? What? Who let this happen?
I mean, my iPhone only has 40 times max zoom, so it's gonna get cooked, right? Okay, zoom all the way to 40 times on the...
Why do you think that the soccer... Zoom at the sky when no one would use their phone for that except for me.
iPhone, 40 times on the Nothing. Oh my god. Right, yeah, so it's exactly what we expected. The Nothing phone, regardless of whether you use the AI enhancement or not, just looks worse. It's just not capturing as much information as the iPhone.
Yeah, that's not very fair. It's a... look at a bird, a plane, like...
iPhone, and AI can't help you there. Let me make something very clear. How far your phone can digital zoom has literally zero correlation with how good of a camera it is.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I think we're talking about like optical stuff here. So for companies like Samsung, this stuff does matter because they have the hardware to back it up. Now, nothing just cropping an ultra-wide image, it doesn't really matter. I can just take that into Photoshop and do that myself.
Actually does correlate with, though, is how low a company's standards are for what counts as a photo. Damn. Because I could literally go back to the first smartphone I ever owned if I wanted. Take a photo and just keep cropping in till all I can see is a single brown smudge. And technically, that could be 300 times digital zoom. Best
wow, guys, there's a microscope in his pocket right there.
Zoom camera in the world, everyone. Oh my god. I can't do this anymore.
All right, so speaking of phone cameras, last but not least is the classic shot on a smartphone trope. First of all,
I mean, if it was shot on a smartphone, then it's shot on a smartphone.
Several companies have already been caught lying about like sample images that were supposed to be shot on that smartphone that were just licensed from some...
Wait, anyone that looks at this phone and thinks that's a good camera, I have a bridge to sell you here. Like,
professional photo shoot somewhere on a random DSLR, which is already crazy. But even the ones that aren't lying do feel like they're kind of stretching the truth with the amount of extra hardware that's being added to...
I did this for I showed my cousin this once. The S20 launch was, of course, shot on the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra. And he took point out all the hardware that you're using, but all that hardware was, when you looked at the launch, was just a holder so that keep it in place, and then like something that would send it to the TV cameras and signal. So it wasn't any extra lenses on there. It was shot on that phone itself. Pretty impressive.
Shoot it on a smartphone. Like the whole point, I feel like, of this, awesome piece of content was shot on a smartphone is to sort of inspire and empower you to shoot your own awesome photos and videos with that tiny sensor and lens that fits in your pocket everywhere you go. But when there's a massive external stabilization rig and huge lenses and filters and all sorts of other things added to the phone.
I mean, you can get that, and I hate to defend Apple. I mean, you can buy that on Amazon, right? You can get that kit if you wanted to.
And millions of dollars of lighting and...
Well, okay, you're going a bit too far for that one. Now, Samsung, they can do what they want with the live stream because it's a live stream. But I don't know what we're doing at this point. Like, it's so funny when you have all these lightings. Like, if you're gonna shoot a movie, you might as well just buy a camera at that. Like, what? Why would you use an iPhone?
Set design to make that all possible. I guess it's still impressive, but it also kind of defeats the purpose a little bit. I can almost guarantee there are features disabled on those phones to make those accessories work. Like if I'm shooting with all that stuff, I'm disabling the built-in stabilization if I have a 5-figure jib to shoot with. Like if the only thing from the original phone that you're still using to shoot is just the sensor technically, then is it still shot on a smartphone? I guess technically yes, but
there's just a lot of technicalities happening around here. Lots of technicalities. All right, now let's cut to our final headline from MIT A-hole. Let's see what This student council presidency dilemma happened. And someone did at me on one. It was ridiculous. Why would anyone think it was me? Why? Anyway, I'll show you that screenshot from Christy Lamont. Just ridiculous. Anyway, this may be stupid, but I want a reality check. I'm a female junior high school. I'm also dating a boy, Jack, in my school. We're at the top of our classes, and I have many ambitions to go to great colleges. As juniors, we decided what teams will run for student president, student vice president, president, vice president. Both present their ideas as a team, and the student body vote for which team is the best. Me and Jack both want to run for president, me for vice president, and him for president. Now, I asked him if he wanted to run with me. He respectfully declined. He felt that we might not win because we are a couple. Yeah, as a high school geopolitical analyst, I have not seen that excuse before. I've heard the excuse, oh, my election was hacked by Russia before, but I haven't heard the excuse that you wouldn't win because you're dating somebody. Now we can do some 5D chess here. Maybe he feels that way because that they would exploit his relationship with her and use that dating relationship against him in the election. Maybe. I really doubt that. These don't seem like the type of people to say something like that. Let's move on. Now, it's fairly okay with this because it made enough sense. He figured he wanted to run for student council with the guy or something. Later, I found he wants to run for president and vice president with the girl. Wait. He's running against his girlfriend for student council. How does that even work? Okay, let's be an analyst here, guys. What do you think is harder? Do you think it's harder to run for president against someone that you are dating, or do you think it's harder to run for president against someone that you are dating? You're the one with her or against her? That's the calculus that we're seeing here. I mean, you're already dating. You can't break up. There'll be an electoral scandal. What are we doing at this point? Why on earth would you run against? What? Why are you doing this? Let me see. He said, yeah, he was going to be president too. Well, he's the worst strategist I have ever seen in my life. Why would you run against your own girlfriend in a high school election? First of all, she could just, she's down at the polls, call a snap election, and break up with you and then leak everything and she wins. I mean, she has everything on you. Well, what are you doing at this point? Okay, this guy, what are you doing? All right, let's continue to read. However, before me and Jack started dating, we had both told each other who we had liked before we liked each other. That's obviously, of course. And he had said he liked her. Let's call her Emily. Now he's coming to me and telling me he wants to run for president with her. Okay, first of all, rule number 1 of high school politics, don't date. You already broke that one. Rule number 2 of high school politics, don't confess crushes on people. Lie. Seriously, lie. Just lie at this point, bro. Don't do that. Rule 3, which I didn't think we're gonna have to get to. If you already broke rule 1 and 2, maybe don't run against the person who has that information on you. I don't know. I don't know at that point. Our school is not that big, but there are many other girls or guys that he could run with. Now they DM all the time, always whisper to each other in class, giggling and laughing while I. No, Jack says he's too shy to talk to me in school or sit together and interact in school. Aren't you political opponents now? He's not openly flirting or anything. It just makes me anxious as he refuses to talk to me like a friend in school. And also, like to mention, our school is against dating, which I guess makes sense as to why he wouldn't want to run with you, because then, maybe it's against the rules. What is this mess, bro? Oh my gosh, this is the kind of stuff that I Google when I'm bored. You read this stuff and you're just like, bro, what on earth did I just read? Now, let's get to what Christy Marie Lamond had to say about another situation. Apparently she thinks this is me. I can't believe that she thinks so low of me. Let me see if I can pull this up on screen. Let's see. Not me. Let's see if I can pull this up on the screen. Oh yeah, here we go. From the Muppet Pastor, people randomly submit stuff to him, and he can give them advice. Let's see what this screenshot has to say. And as you can see, Christy Marie Lamond thought this was me. If you guys can see this on the screen, I'm going to make sure that we can still see this on the screen, and all of it's nonsense. Okay, I'm going to put this in a tab. Yeah, there we go, so I can get to the thing. There we go. let me read this nonsense post. As you can see, Christine Lamond added me to this. I didn't drag myself into this conversation. I said this is ridiculous. Quote, I don't know if it's a crush or a squish or it's just fierce admiration about this girl. I don't know if we're friends. She's way more popular, but she's coming to my school and planning on running for president of the school as well as some clubs. I'm super competitive and feel that to get acknowledged by her, I have to win, but I don't want to mess up the friendship chance. I floated internally with my advisors to be her vice president, but someone else would be. Do I want to crush her or do I have a crush? Okay, first of all, do you think that I have a campaign political advisors? You think I just have a room full of advisors? When I turn off this stream, Christy, am I going to go to sit over there and talk to my advising team for political office, for student council? Is that what you think? No. Second of all, consistent on based on what you know about me, Christy GPT. Do you think I'd let some squish get in the way of winning an election? Bro, if my brother was eligible to run for president and he ran against me at GCA, I would have ran against him. Bro, you think I'm gonna let some squish get in the way of this? And as everyone knows, I've never had a crush. Do you think that? Okay, what is the call sheet? What is the poly market on this ridiculous post being made? It cannot. No. Why would it? That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. No, you're gonna, like I said, I will crush my enemies. And if you're running against me like that, I mean, I will. What kind of nonsense is this, bro? just sheer ridiculousness at this point. Like, okay, bro, just no. Worst analysts in history. Most analysts in history are at this point, bro. And honestly, if that was me, do you think I would admit to writing something as pathetic and sad as that? Like, no. Heck no. Absolutely not. God bless. Tech Talk today, dude. Thanks for watching Pulse, the heartbeat of America. So much. I'm excited for you guys. And just know, guys, if I'm ever going to run for president, which I will crush my enemies, no matter who it is. God bless. Tech Talk to you later.